The thunder rolled across the Montana sky like a warning from the mountains as Caleb Thorne sat awake in his dark cabin. The storm had already knocked out half the power in the valley, and the wind rattled the windows like impatient hands. Caleb was used to late-night emergencies after 20 years in large animal rescue, but something about this night felt heavier. It felt like trouble was already waiting for him. At 11:43 p.m., his phone buzzed on the nightstand. He didn't know the number, but he knew the fear in the voicemail that followed. A woman spoke in a shaky whisper. 6 hours down. Thrashing. My husband says to shoot her, but she's fighting. Please. Caleb didn't even finish listening. He pulled on his boots, grabbed his heavy medical bag, and stepped into the cold night. His dog Buster lifted his head, but Caleb motioned him to stay. This call wasn't routine. It felt like walking toward a graveyard. The GPS led him far from town, past the last paved road, and deep into washed-out gravel tracks near the foothills. When he saw the mailbox name, a knot formed in his chest. Sterling. Marcus Sterling was known across the county, a rich land developer who played cowboy for show. He bought horses like trophies and sold them for meat the moment they weren't useful. If a horse was suffering on Sterling's land, there was no mercy waiting inside that barn. Rain hammered Caleb's truck as he pulled in. A single weak floodlight flickered above the old barn, peeling paint hanging off it like loose skin. The yard was mud and deep puddles. From the main house, a thin woman ran out holding a newspaper over her head. She was shaking in a light cardigan, her shoes sinking into the mud. "You're Caleb," she said over the thunder. "I'm Sarah. Thank you for coming. Marcus is inside. He's angry." "Is the mare alive?" Caleb asked, grabbing his medical bag. "Barely. She's making awful sounds." Caleb pushed past her and went to the barn. Before he even opened the door, he heard shouting from inside. When he slid the heavy door open, the smell of rot, old hay and blood hit him like a wall. Under a dim yellow bulb lay a dark bay mare on her side. Her coat was soaked in sweat and filth. Her ribs shook with every breath, and her eyes showed the white of pure fear. Standing over her was Marcus Sterling himself, broad-shouldered, angry, and holding a rifle. "I didn't call you," Marcus growled. "The horse is done, gut twist or something. I'm putting her down." Caleb ignored him and knelt beside the mare. She let out a weak nicker when he touched her neck, a sound of pain and pleading. Caleb had seen many dying horses, but this one was still fighting. She wasn't ready to quit. "She's not colic," Caleb said firmly. "She's in labor." "She ain't bred," Marcus snapped. "Bought her at an auction 3 months ago. She's trash." "Look at her scars." Caleb ran his hand over her flank. The contractions were clear, but the labor wasn't progressing. Something was blocking the foal. "She's definitely bred," he said. "If you shoot her now, you'll kill the foal, too." Marcus spat into the straw. "Vet bill will cost more than both of them. You've got 5 minutes before I pull the trigger." Caleb didn't look up. Time was slipping. The mare's breathing was shallow. Her body trembled. Caleb moved to her rear and saw nothing presenting. No hooves, no sack, nothing but swelling and exhaustion. "It's okay, girl," Caleb whispered as he pulled on long vet gloves. "Let's see what's going on." He reached inside. The heat and pressure gripped his arm like a vice. He felt around, mapping everything by touch. There, a hoof. But it was turned the wrong way. The foal was upside down. Then Caleb felt something else. Another nose. Another head. His heart thudded hard against his ribs. The storm pounded above them. Marcus barked something, but Caleb barely heard him. He pulled his arm out, his face pale. "Sarah," he said firmly, "I need hot water and towels." Sarah rushed off without a word. Caleb looked at Marcus. "Put the safety on." "We have a serious problem." "What problem?" Sarah asked when she returned, trembling with fear. "It's not one foal," Caleb said quietly. "There are 2, twins, and they are blocking each other." Sarah gasped. Even Marcus stopped chewing his tobacco. Twins were almost always fatal in horses. Most didn't survive pregnancy, let alone labor. "If we don't get 'em out soon," Caleb said, "all 3 die." Marcus scoffed, but he kept the rifle lowered. "Make it quick." Caleb went back in. The twins were tangled. One's legs were hooked over the other's neck. Every contraction pushed the mass against Caleb's hand, crushing his fingers. He had to force them backward, then guide one out at a time. "Come on," he muttered through clenched teeth, fighting the mare's spasms. "Work with me, girl." Minutes passed like hours. Finally, Caleb felt a path open. "Now," he ordered. "Push." Sarah held the mare's head, whispering encouragement, tears streaking her face. Caleb pulled with everything he had. "I see hooves!" Sarah cried. A tiny pair of pale hooves appeared, then a still gray nose. The foal was stuck at the shoulders. "Marcus, help me!" Caleb barked. "Grab the leg." "I'm not touching that." "Now!" Marcus finally grabbed hold. They pulled. The foal slid free onto the straw, limp and silent. Caleb worked fast, cleared the airways, rubbed her ribs. "Breathe," he whispered. "Come on." "Nothing. Come on." Then a tiny gasp came. A weak whinny followed. "She's alive," Sarah sobbed. But Caleb wasn't celebrating. "There's still one inside," he said, "and she's running out of time." He reached in again. And this time, what he felt didn't make sense. The second foal was tiny, but the shape of its head and the feel of its coat were strange. When he pulled it out, the barn fell silent. The foal was silver white, shining under the dim light, with a perfect black crescent moon on its forehead. Caleb stared. He knew that mark. Everyone in 3 states knew that mark. This wasn't just a birth. It was the beginning of a mystery no one expected. For a long moment, Caleb could only stare at the small silver colt lying in the straw. The pale shimmer of his coat looked almost unreal. The black crescent moon on his forehead stood out like a brand. Sarah covered her mouth with both hands. Even Marcus stepped closer, confusion replacing his usual anger. "What is that supposed to be?" Marcus muttered. Caleb didn't answer right away. His mind raced. Midnight Lady. The crescent moon line. The silver ghost. 3 years of rumors and one massive theft that had never been solved. This mare wasn't a cheap auction horse. She was a missing champion. Caleb stood slowly, ignoring the ache in his arm. He looked straight at Marcus. "Where did you get her?" Marcus swallowed. His eyes darted toward the rifle leaning against the wall. "Auction, Nevada, cheap lot." "You're lying," Caleb said. His voice was calm, but it carried anger, held tight like a knot in his chest. "This marking doesn't come from nowhere. This colt belongs to a stolen bloodline people searched for across 3 states. Marcus took a step back. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Oh, I know exactly what I'm talking about," Caleb replied. "This mare is Midnight Lady. She was stolen from the Kensington stables 3 years ago. She was worth $2 million. And that colt, only one stallion in the world could sire him." Sarah gasped, understanding at last. Marcus froze, then lunged toward the rifle. Caleb was still on his knees beside the mare. He couldn't reach the gun first. Instead, he grabbed the only thing near him, the heavy bucket filled with steaming water and iodine. With a desperate swing, he threw its contents straight into Marcus' face. The rifle fired. The sound exploded through the barn, shaking dust loose from the rafters. A bullet ripped into a wooden beam inches above Caleb's shoulder. Marcus stumbled back, blinded and coughing, clawing at his burning eyes. Sarah, terrified but driven by instinct, scrambled across the stall and grabbed the rifle before Marcus could reach it. She backed away into the corner, holding it with trembling hands. "Don't move!" she cried. Marcus wiped his face, blinking furiously. His shirt was soaked. His hair dripped reddish water down his cheeks. He looked at Sarah and then at Caleb and gave a harsh, humorless laugh. "You think this changes anything? You think a vet and a panicked woman are walking out of here alive?" Caleb stood up. His heart raced, but his voice stayed steady. "This mare isn't yours. That colt isn't yours. A theft ring has been working across state lines for years, and you just proved you're part of it." Marcus' face twisted into fury. "You talk too much." He reached into his back pocket. Caleb expected a cloth. Instead, a knife unfolded in his hand, the blade flashing under the weak barn light. "Sheriff Miller is my cousin," Marcus growled. "He'll believe whatever I say." Sarah's hands shook so badly the rifle barrel drifted sideways. Caleb knew she wouldn't be able to fire. Caleb also knew he was running out of time. Before coming to the barn, he had filled a syringe with xylazine, planning to help the mare relax after delivery. The tranquilizer was strong enough to drop a 1,000-pound horse. Now it sat in his pocket. It was the only chance he had. He lifted both hands, pretending to calm the situation. "Marcus, the mare is bleeding out. Let me save her. If she dies, you lose both foals and every dollar they're worth." Greed flickered in Marcus' eyes. He hesitated. "Save her then, but no tricks." Caleb crouched by the mare again, pretending to examine her pulse. In the metal tray beneath her chin, he saw Marcus' reflection. Marcus stepped closer, holding the knife low, ready to strike. Caleb palmed the syringe. He waited. 3 steps. 2. 1. Caleb spun around and drove the needle into Marcus' thigh. Marcus roared in pain, slashing blindly. The blade cut Caleb's arm, but adrenaline masked the sting. Caleb shoved Marcus away. Marcus staggered, grabbed at the air, then collapsed into the straw with a heavy thud. His limbs twitched once, then went still as the sedative took hold. Sarah lowered the rifle, breathing hard. "Is he dead?" "No," Caleb said, wiping sweat from his brow, "but he'll wish he was when the state troopers get here. Call them." "Not local police. This is federal." She ran for the house. Caleb turned back to Midnight Lady. Her breaths were coming shallow and weak. Her gums were turning white. The long and brutal labor had taken everything from her. Caleb knelt beside her, his hands shaking. "Stay with me, girl," he whispered. But Midnight Lady had held on longer than any mare should. She had fought through pain no animal deserved. She had waited until both foals were safe. Now she was fading. "No," Caleb said softly. "Not yet." Sarah rushed back in, but froze when she saw the mare's chest rising slower and slower. "Caleb," she whispered, tears spilling down her face. "Is she—" Midnight Lady lifted her head one last time. She didn't look at Caleb. She looked at her newborns, 1 bay filly, 1 silver miracle, and let out a soft, trembling whinny. Then her head fell. The great champion was gone. The barn filled with silence. Only the rain outside broke the stillness, and the tiny sounds of 2 newborn foals searching for a mother who would never rise again. Caleb felt his throat tighten. His arm throbbed from the cut, but he ignored it. He moved to the foals, pulling them close, wrapping them in towels so they wouldn't freeze. "You're safe," he whispered. "I promise, you're safe." Outside, sirens began to echo faintly through the storm, coming closer. But inside the barn, Caleb Thorne made another promise to himself. He wasn't letting anyone take these foals again. Not thieves, not greed, not anyone. 6 months passed, but Caleb remembered every second of that stormy night, as if it had happened yesterday. The barn, the gunshot, the silver colt with the crescent moon. Midnight Lady's last breath. It all lived inside him, replaying whenever he closed his eyes. But this morning was different. The sun rose warm and steady over Thorne Equine Sanctuary, spreading gold across the fields. The pasture glowed like a painting, the grass bright from last night's rain. Caleb leaned against the old wooden fence, his arm resting on the top rail. A thin scar ran along his forearm from Marcus' knife, an ugly reminder of the price paid that night. Beside him stood Julian Kensington, owner of Kensington Stables and the man who had searched for Midnight Lady for 3 long years. He wore a tailored gray suit that didn't belong anywhere near a ranch, but his eyes were soft as he stared across the pasture. "I spent years looking for her," Julian said. His voice shook as he spoke. "We thought she'd been sold overseas. We thought she was gone forever." Caleb didn't speak. He didn't trust his voice yet. Julian took a deep breath. "Thank you for being there for her. She didn't die alone." Caleb nodded slowly. "She was brave, strong. She fought harder than any horse I've ever seen." He gave a soft whistle, a sound the foals knew well by now. From the far end of the pasture, two young horses lifted their heads. Then they ran, hooves thundering through the morning light, straight toward the fence. The first was the bay filly, sturdy and bright-eyed, her coat rich and glossy. Caleb had named her Phoenix because she had come back from the edge of death. She moved with confidence, kicking up small clouds of dust as she slid to a stop near the fence. But it was the second one who made Julian step forward with a trembling breath. The silver colt. Now 6 months old, he was taller and stronger. His coat shimmered like polished metal, as if light clung to him. His mane had grown snowy white, and on his forehead, the black crescent moon still stood bold and clear. Julian's voice cracked. "He looks exactly like his father." Caleb nodded. "He does." The Silver Ghost had been a legend, a stallion known across the entire country. People drove thousands of miles just to watch him race. His bloodline was unmatched. The insurance report said he died 4 years ago, but the truth had been buried under greed and lies. The FBI found his remains on Marcus Sterling's property months after the arrest. But his son lived. And he was magnificent. Julian wiped a tear from his cheek. A colt like this, he could be worth $500,000 at auction, maybe more. Caleb's chest tightened. He knew that. He also knew he could never afford to keep them. The sanctuary always struggled. Feed bills were high. Vet bills were endless. The twins needed constant care those first weeks. Caleb had slept in the barn, bottle feeding them every 4 hours, fighting off infections, comforting them when they cried for a mother who never came. He had poured his heart into them. But money like that didn't belong to someone like him. Caleb swallowed hard. "I can't pay for them, Julian. I wish I could. I really do." Julian turned to him, expression unreadable. "You didn't let me finish." He reached inside his coat and pulled out a folded document. He handed it to Caleb. Caleb blinked, confused. "What's this?" Quote. "Just read it," Julian said softly. Caleb unfolded the paper, his breath caught. It was a transfer of ownership. Both foals, Phoenix and the silver colt, signed over to him, to Caleb Thorne. Caleb looked up, stunned. "Julian, I can't accept this. This is a fortune." "No," Julian said, placing a hand on his shoulder. "It's not a gift. It's a debt repaid." Caleb shook his head, still overwhelmed. "Julian, I didn't do anything special. I just helped her." "You did more than help her," Julian said. "You protected her, you fought for her, and she trusted you with her last breath. She gave you her children. I'm just honoring that." The silver colt reached over the fence and nudged Caleb's arm. His warm breath brushed Caleb's skin. Then he gave a bright, happy whinny that echoed across the valley. Caleb closed his eyes for a moment, letting the warmth of the moment settle inside him. When he opened them, his world felt different, bigger, brighter, full of purpose. He placed his hand gently on the colt's neck. "Welcome home, buddy," he whispered. "Welcome home." The bay filly nudged his shoulder too, not wanting to be left out. Caleb laughed, wiping moisture from his eyes. From a broken barn in the middle of a thunderstorm to a sanctuary glowing with morning light, two foals who should never have survived now ran free because one man refused to give up. Midnight Lady's legacy lived on, not in trophies or auctions, but in the trust she placed in Caleb Thorne, and he would honor that trust for the rest of his life.